Allowing a child still in diapers to apply for a moose permit is unacceptable. In addition to allowing parents to have more chances to be drawn for the moose permit, the change also allowed both parents of the same child a second chance to kill a moose as a sub-permittee and an individual lottery winner. But there is nothing stopping a person from shooting their child's moose as a sub-permittee and then also being drawn as a permit winner and have a sub-permittee on their permit shoot another moose.
This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. Today's show is all about who gets to shoot a moose. Every session of the Maine legislature quarrels over how many moose are available, how many permits can be handed out, how the moose lottery can be improved, and how many favored people ought to be able to cut in line or get improved odds. A couple of weeks ago, the legislature's Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee had Moose Day, a bunch of bills on the subject. A week later, the committee made a few decisions about the bills. Both the issues and the process might fascinate you. Or not, we'll see. I'll pick a couple of those bills, skim the highlights, follow them through to their conclusion, and give you an inside earful of how this all works. It won't be easy. Altogether, the committee totaled over 9 hours of consideration. I've got to squeeze some of that all into 1 hour. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, Doors, Equipment, and EBS. The committee starts with introductions.
So we'll start off with introductions, and we'll start on my far left.
Good afternoon, Roger Reed, District 103, Carmel, Etna, and Herman.
Robert Alley, District 138, Jonesport, Beals, Addison, Harrington, Cherryfield, Millbridge, Columbia Falls, Centerville, Jonesboro, Whitneyville, and Marshfield.
I'm Bob Duchesne, House District 121, Alton, Argyle, Hudson, Corinth, and Milford.
I'm Scott Searway, Senate District 16, Waterville, Winslow, Fairfield, Benton, Albion, Clinton, and Unity Plantation.
Oh yeah, I am the House Chair of the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee. So when I say you're getting the inside story, it's the inside story. Senator Scott Searway of Winslow is my Senate co-chair. There are 10 representatives and 3 senators on the committee. Altogether, we heard 7 bills on moose during a long session of hearings. These included bills that would provide moose permits to conservation groups for fundraising, sporting camps to help keep them alive, and one that would give 25 permits to the Maliseet Indians to help keep them alive. One bill would allow hunters to swap permits with a little bit of money changing hands. One bill gave hunters over 65 who had never been lucky in the moose lottery finally a chance to get a permit. And we had 2 bills intended to correct an unintended consequence of a bill passed in the previous session that allowed infants to win moose hunting permits. That actually happened. 425 young children applied for a moose permit last year, and 4 kids under the age of 10 won permits to hunt a moose. Let's start with those 2 bills.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Senator Searway, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. As I'm sure you all know, I'm Paul Davis, and I represent Senate District 4, which includes all of Piscataquis County and parts of Penobscot and Somerset County, and I'm here today to, as the sponsor of LD 222, an act regarding Maine's moose lottery. This bill proposes to restrict eligibility to apply for a moose hunting permit to individuals 8 years of age and older.
As will become quickly apparent, there's actually 2 issues and 1 opportunity here. Let's start with the background. Last session, during the 127th legislature, a law was enacted to take minimum age limits off hunting, letting parents and guardians determine when a child is old enough to hunt, but requiring very strict supervision. Very strict. This followed a revelation that most states didn't have age restrictions and that the rate of hunting incidents involving children is very, very low because everyone is being so careful. But that opened up 2 problems. First, to take down a 1,000-pound moose requires a pretty hefty caliber, and realistically, we may need some age restrictions on that activity. Second, removing the age limit on hunting made all children eligible to enter the moose lottery, including infants. Even though they could never hunt at that age, their permit could qualify somebody else as a sub-permittee to take a moose. A way to game the system, so to speak. And the opportunity? We'll get to that in a moment, but it involves when a young hunter can start accumulating bonus points that would improve the odds in future lotteries.
I believe that children younger than 8, the permit ends up being more for their parent or guardian than for themselves. Many individuals apply for a permit each year and don't receive one. And putting 8 years old and younger in the mix diminishes the chances of a lot of people. By setting this reasonable age limit, we are helping to ensure these sought-after permits will go to individuals who are at an age that they can use them. I just want to steal a little bit of the Commissioner's thunder. I know that he's going to tell you this, I'll tell you before. There was 475 people that applied last year in this age group, and only 4 got permits. Well, it's not a huge problem, but it's somewhat of a problem. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Representative Valley.
Why can't we move that age of 8 to 10 or 12 at least?
Well, you could. You could.
Representative Neto.
So even individuals 8 years of age and older, isn't this subjective that really they're getting this for their parents and or guardians than for themselves also?
I guess you can say that. I remember when my son was growing up and he wanted to go hunting, and I took him with me. When he was 5 years old, he went with me. He didn't carry a gun at that age, but he went with me. When he was 7 or 8, he did. And I guess at 8 years old, I mean, it's all subjective, but I think that if a young person at 8 or 9 years old got a permit, they would probably really enjoy doing this. One thing that the law has shown when we changed this last year, it is shown nationally, and I just asked the Commission, would be interested to look, far more women go hunting now in the states where this law was, where the 10-year-old limit was removed. And I suspect that if an 8 or 9-year-old got a moose permit, maybe his mom or whoever might go with him. So I don't know.
Representative Neto.
Did you make your son drag the moose out of the woods at 8 years old by himself too?
The only moose I ever killed was a result of an automobile accident. I usually shot them right down to the top of their head. I probably killed more moose than anybody here in this building. I was a state trooper for 23 years, northern Franklin County and northern Piscataquis and Somerset County. I shot all kinds of moose. I have never applied for a permit. Don't intend to.
That's Senator Paul Davis. We're listening in on hearings that look to change the rules on who gets to shoot a moose. 2 bills are looking to change the age limit. In the actual hearing, the committee next took testimony on the first bill, LD 222, but this would be a much more understandable presentation if we put the other bill on the table so you can hear the alternatives before we start asking further questions and debating the merits. We'll do that after a break, but this is a good time to mention something about how the legislative process really works. Over 2,000 bills will go before the legislature this year. Most won't get passed, and some are just plain stupid. Often you hear complaints that there are too many bills and that a lot of time is wasted, but the reality is, bills are the only way the legislature can have a conversation. It's the only way to take an idea and discuss it. Some dumb ideas are actually good ideas that need improvement. You can learn a lot from a dumb bill. There are other ways to have a conversation about proposed policy changes, but that kind of process can be more expensive and waste more time. So the legislature keeps doing it this way since Maine became a state in 1820 because, for the most part, it's kind of messy, but it actually works. And to be honest, not much time is wasted on dumb bills. They usually die pretty fast. I'm chairing this committee, and we've been killing bills faster than black flies at a nudist camp. We'll go back to the State House in a moment. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. It's Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. There's a lot going on in today's program. On the surface, we're making some decisions about who gets to shoot a moose. But we're really peeling back the curtains on how bills are actually heard in the State House and how laws are actually crafted. So if you've never been, you hopefully learn a little something about the process from today's show. Right now, we're recapping a hearing that took place 2 weeks ago. there were two bills trying to figure out how to correct a problem. The first bill would set the age for when you can apply for a moose permit at 8 years old. Right now it's 0. We'll explain that in a moment. A second bill, LD 558, would also set the age for moose hunting at 8, but would allow younger kids to be in the lottery just so they could accumulate bonus points and give them a better chance in future moose lotteries. Trust me, this will become clearer. But for now, we go to Gary Hilliard as he presents his bill.
I am Gary Hilliard. I'm a state representative for District 176, and I live in Belgrade. I'm happy to present to you today LD 558, an act to improve moose hunting. This bill seeks to correct an oversight in the law relating to the bill I sponsored last year regarding hunter age. And for the benefit of you new members, during the 128th session, the legislature eliminated the 10-year-old age requirement for junior hunters. We did this for several reasons. We agreed that it was up to the parents to decide at what age a young person should be able to hunt based on their ability and maturity level. Also, 39 other states do not impose an age limit for hunters, and junior hunters are 7 times safer than hunters overall. Not the least of which, it is an economic and conservation issues. Statistics show that if we can get kids in the woods at a young age, they become hunters for life. So why the adjustment to the bill? It's an accepted fact that very young children do not have the ability to use a large caliber rifle to effectively and ethically kill a moose. In other words, 6-year-olds, for example, regularly kill deer all around America with 243s, 7mm odd 8 rifles, etc., but we would not want them using those calibers to kill a moose. In summary, this bill specifies that hunters 8 years of age or younger than 8 years of age may not hunt moose, but may purchase applications for moose hunting permits in order to accumulate points in the moose drawing. And the reason I left that in there is, again, looking at statistics nationwide, it's very important to get these kids hunting young, get them hunting at an early age, and I thought that's just another measure to get them interested even before they can hunt. I'm not sure what the statistics are and how many people would apply under those circumstances. Probably not a lot. I'm happy to leave that up to you guys to work out during work session and whatnot.
I've got a question. I was going to ask you what you thought of Representative Wood's question about 10 years old, kind of possibly be still able to apply to add permit points, but go to 10 years of age.
I much prefer 8. I think, again, relying on parents' judgment, I understand there's issues with that at times. Yeah. I'd like to trust the people of the state of Maine as much as possible. Both of my grandkids, for example, could shoot a .30-06 or a .270 or something like that at the age of 8. I know some kids can't, but some kids can at 14. So we got to draw the line somewhere. I'd like to keep it at 8 myself.
Yeah.
So there's alternative number 2. 2 bills would set a minimum age of 8 years old before you could win a moose hunting permit in the moose lottery. But the second bill would allow younger kids to apply so that they could gain bonus points. Right now, if you don't win a moose permit, you gain bonus points that improve your chances in future lotteries. The idea in Representative Hilliard's bill is that letting young kids accumulate points might keep them excited about hunting while they're of an impressionable age. For Mainers who share a deep sense of hunting culture and history, a lot of us are worried that kids are getting too involved in their smartphones and video games, and newer generations are losing older traditions. Now that you've heard both bills presented, let's go to supporting testimony. David Trahan is Executive Director of the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine.
Senator Searway, Representative Duchesne, we're distinguished members of the committee. My name is David Trahan. I'm representing the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine, testifying in support of LD 222, an act regarding Maine's moose lottery, and LD 558, which I'll do at the same time to save you 2 testimonies from me, because the bills are so similar, an act to improve moose hunting. We'd first like to thank Senator Davis for sponsoring SAM Bill LD 222 and Representative Hilliard, the original sponsor of legislation to reduce the hunting age, for introducing these 2 bills. Both LD 222 and 558 accomplish our main objective of increasing the age in which a child can apply to harvest a moose to 8 years old. When the original legislation to lower the age to hunt in Maine was proposed, our organization testified that our preference would be to allow 8-year-olds to hunt for small game with firearms that are more suitable to younger age classes. Although that was not the final legislation, we did support the version that passed in the last legislature and believe this change should be closely monitored. Because we did support the change, we feel some responsibility to fix the law. We did bring to the attention of Bill's supporters, including the lobbyists for the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance, that elimination of the age requirement to hunt would create problems with the moose hunt and the lottery system. We were told it would be fixed, but obviously it wasn't. Allowing a child still in diapers to apply for a moose permit is unacceptable. In reality, the change went much further. In addition to allowing parents to have more chances to be drawn for the moose permit, the change also allowed both parents of the same child a second chance to kill a moose as a sub-permittee and an individual lottery winner. Current law doesn't allow a person to shoot 2 moose as a lottery winner and a sub-permittee, but there is nothing stopping a person from shooting their child's moose as a sub-permittee and then also being drawn as a permit winner and have a sub-permittee on their permit shoot another moose. For that reason and many others, we believe this law gives unfair advantage to parents with children, and one of these bills should be passed to fix this problem. We do encourage the committee to make this an emergency bill and pass it so it can take effect in the upcoming season. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Representative Wood?
Thank you, Senator. So, how do you feel about allowing an 8 and 9-year-old to apply for a moose permit, but not actually?
We would support that change.
Okay.
These animals can weigh 1,000 pounds, as you know, and a firearm in the 270, 308, 30-06 caliber is a preferred firearm because of its humane method in which it dispatches the animal. The smaller the caliber, the more accurate you have to be, and we think you should be proficient and old enough to use a firearm of that caliber or that range of calibers.
Now, you mentioned about the sub-permittee and the permittee and the concern where it's a father and son or whatever. I don't know if there's some way of correcting that problem when one gets one moose compared to 2 moose.
One of the biggest complaints we hear about the moose lottery system is that one family gets to shoot multiple moose while some families have never been drawn.
Right.
And, you know, if you've got enough money and you've got enough children, you can put in a lot of opportunities to get a permit. And I think the reason that the number isn't bigger is that we did not advertise this problem with the lottery system, so that a lot of people don't know it yet. But they are learning fast, and I believe you will see those numbers go up significantly. What concerns us is the overall policy. It is not okay for the impression that a 2-year-old can have a moose permit to kill a moose. We all know that's just not reality, and we ought to be writing our laws to reflect reality and what's going on the ground.
Any other questions? Seeing none?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so anybody else in favor of this bill that would like to speak?
Good afternoon, Senator Searway, distinguished members of the committee. My name is Don Kleiner. I live in Union, and I'm here representing the Maine Professional Guides Association. You have 2 bills before you, as Mr. Trahan mentioned, that do essentially the same thing, come at slightly different angles. We're supportive of both of those. I think this is unintended consequences. When the hunting age was dropped, we didn't realize a moose hunt is a hunt of a lifetime, and someone ought to be old enough to remember it. And it's that straightforward. I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Anyone else that would like to speak in favor?
Good afternoon, Senator Searway, Representative Duchesne, members of the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee, Chandler Woodcock, Commissioner of the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, speaking on behalf of the Department in support of LD 222. This bill will restrict eligibility to apply for moose hunting permit to residents, non-residents, and aliens 8 years of age and older. By law, last year was the first year in which customers under 10 years of age could apply for a moose permit. Last year, we had 425, as I previously mentioned, under 8 years old apply for the permit, and 4 of them won. Many of these 425 applicants applied for a bonus point only. thereby indicating they did not want to win a permit last year and just wanted to start building their bonus points to improve their chance of winning in future years. I'd be happy to answer any questions that I...
Any other questions? No? See none? Thank you. Anyone else in favor of this bill that would like to speak? See none? Is there anyone in opposition to this bill that would like to speak? See none? Is there anyone that's neither for nor against this bill that would like to speak? See none? That concludes LD 222.
If you've never been to a legislative hearing, hopefully you're getting an idea of how all this works. Sponsors present their bills, others testify in support, then others can testify in opposition, and then some folks can testify neither for nor against a bill, but they may have some additional information or perspective to share with the committee that might help deliberations. It can get confusing. For instance, we have two very similar bills here, LD 222 and LD 558. You've just heard the Commissioner of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, Chandler Woodcock, testify in favor of LD 222. So he must be in favor of the second bill too, right? Well, guess again. A little twist is coming up when Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine resumes on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine, Saturday mornings at 9, Sunday mornings at 8 on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Today isn't a simple show. You'll have to treat it like an onion. It's got layers. On the surface, we're listening to a legislative discussion about who gets to shoot a moose. But it's also about the legislative process itself. The truth is, this is just how citizens make laws to govern themselves. The legislators are just part-time, term-limited, underpaid citizen legislators, and anyone can come testify on anything. If you ever want to give your 2 cents worth on an issue, it's surprisingly easy, especially in this committee that I chair, the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee, which is in the process of hearing two similar bills. LD 222 would set the age at which children can hunt for moose at age 8, with very strict supervision. The second bill, LD 558, would also set the age at 8, but would allow younger children to be entered in the moose lottery just so they could earn extra bonus points to improve their chances in future lotteries. The Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife testified in favor of the first bill, but has a different position on the nearly identical second bill.
Senator Seaway, members of the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee, Chandler Woodcock, again, Commissioner of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. Our testimony is the same on 558 as it is on 222. The position is different. We're testifying neither for nor against on LD 558. As I'm sure you've already ascertained, there's a subtle difference in the two bills. One bill proposes that you be able to accrue points when you reach the age of 8 years old. This one has attached to it that you're not able to hunt till a certain age. The other bill is an interesting interpretation because it doesn't remove your hunting ability. So if I would understand, it's my understanding if you were a sub-permittee, you would be able to hunt with the other bill even if you were accruing them as a sub-permittee. So I think there is some subtleties that need to be worked out here. And for that reason, we're testifying neither for nor against on this particular bill. We'll leave it up to your deliberations. I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Representative Theriault.
Thank you. So they'd still be able to apply, which means you're going to get the revenue.
If they were applying, we would be receiving revenue.
Right. So with this bill, you won't lose any revenue, but they're just not going to get a permit.
Under the provisions of this proposal.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Representative Neto?
So based on this point system, which will be clearer than it is right now, how many points do you need to get a moose permit?
I'm going to let Bill Swan delve into the point system. I'm not an applicant for moose permits. I actually don't know the answer to that question.
Bill Swan, Director of Licensing, IF&W. To put it in perspective, if you applied for 15 years and didn't receive a permit, you would have accumulated about 30 points. And as a resident, that would give you roughly maybe a 30 to 35% chance of getting a permit. Okay, so, even after you've applied for a long time, it's not guaranteed. Right now, the people with the most points have 80 points, which means they have 80 times the chance of getting a moose permit as a first-time applicant.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Representative Mason?
I'm going to ask a question that might be dumb, but so does that mean their name goes in 80 times, or how does that work?
Essentially, what happens is that every entry every chance is assigned a random number, and then each person, we take the best random number that out of those chances that person had. So basically, you get 80 chances to get a number, a really nice number that would, every year you apply, you get an additional. You apply for additional year. You can see there's kind of a graduated thing of how many points you get as you get farther and farther into this thing, and you haven't gotten a permit because you're very unlucky. We give you more points for applying to try to get all those people that have applied for 20 years. But the bottom line is you keep accumulating points until you win a permit, or until you fail to apply for 2 consecutive years, and then you lose your points. Those are the 2 ways you lose points.
Essentially, that's it. What you've been listening to is a legislative hearing on 2 bills in front of the legislature's Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee about how old you have to be before you can shoot a moose. Both bills are trying to deal with an unintended consequence left over from a bill passed 2 years earlier. At age 16, you need an adult hunting license. And in order to get that, you need to take a hunter safety course. It used to be that kids aged 10 through 15 could hunt under the strict supervision of a licensed adult. But Maine was one of the few states that had any official age limit at all. In states where kids younger than 10 can hunt, statistics showed that the rate of accidents and mishaps was really, really low, mostly because of the need for great care and strict supervision. 2 years ago, a bill was introduced that would lower the age from 10 to 8, and then the legislature ultimately decided to do what most states do, and eliminate the age limit altogether. That accidentally created a couple of problems. It takes a relatively large firearm for moose hunting, so perhaps an age limit was necessary in that particular instance. Plus, when you win a moose permit, somebody else gets to hunt and even take that moose with you, a sub-permittee. So if a 2-year-old is legally eligible to hunt a moose, that gives Dad or some other adult additional chances to go moose hunting, increasing their chances and decreasing the chances of others. There is growing concern that this is an unfair way to game the system. So what are we going to do about it? Well, this isn't unusual. Almost no law is perfect the first time. You can't know everything or foresee everything, so it's very typical that mistakes have to be corrected and unintended consequences dealt with. The bigger the policy change, the bigger the mistakes and the bigger the need for correction. I hate to say it, but that's normal. Too often that becomes political. People like to blame Obamacare for not being perfect the first time. But Social Security is very popular now, and that had to go through a lot of early improvements. In fact, it still is. So, what happens next? Normally, a committee meets again to work in the bills, applying what they learned in the hearing and gathering further information in order to make a recommendation on what to do with the bill. In this case, the IF&W committee met a week later. The results and final conclusion up next. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Today's show is a behind-the-scenes glance at how the Maine legislature works, and we're taking as our example a fundamental wild Maine question. Who gets to shoot a moose? There certainly aren't enough to go around. In fact, over 50,000 people applied for a special permit last year, but only a couple thousand people got one. If all odds were equal, you'd have only about a 5% chance of winning a permit in the lottery. But all odds aren't equal. First, state law takes pity on the unlucky. There's a bonus point system that gives you extra chances the longer you've been unlucky. Second, everyone who wins a permit is allowed to have somebody else as a sub-permittee. Only one moose may be taken, but 2 people have the opportunity. You can only win 1 permit, but you can be a sub-permittee on multiple permits, which would give you multiple chances to be lucky. Now, let's say you take that to extremes, entering all of your family members in the lottery, naming you as sub-permittee. You could even enter your 2-year-old and hunt under your toddler's permit. And then there's the whole question of whether there should be an age limit on who can shoot a moose, considering that you need a larger caliber firearm than you do for other hunting opportunities. Every committee has a legal analyst to help them with legislation. In the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee that I chair, his name is Craig Nail.
All right, LD 222 is an act regarding Maine's moose lottery. This bill restricts the eligibility to apply for a moose hunting permit to a person 8 years of age and older. And on your sheet here, I combined it with LD 558, which that's a very similar bill that allows a person of any age to apply for a moose hunting permit in order to accrue points for the moose permit lottery, but prohibits a person under 8 from actually hunting moose. So one restricts your ability to apply for the permit until 8, and the other one allows you to apply for the purpose of accruing points, but prohibits you from actually hunting the moose.
So 2 bills, both restrict moose hunting to 8 years or older, but one lets you enter the lottery earlier just so you can start accumulating bonus points for a future lottery when you are old enough. Representative Steve Wood is on the committee. He is a professional guide himself.
So we're doing 222 right now, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to combine the two, and we'll do like we did with the first two. Make one out of the two, and I'd like to take 558 and ought to pass, and LD 222 ought not to pass. Because 552, it still allows, 558 still allows the kids to put in for it and accrue points towards getting a moose permit after they turn 8. And I'm for that because it does take years to get a moose permit unless you're really lucky.
Representative Stearns.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me see if I can throw this back at you, Representative Wood, and see if I have your idea framed. That moving forward, any person between birth and the age of 8, their parents or guardians or someone could purchase for them an opportunity so that they could get the points, accrue points, as if they had, but they couldn't actually be the sub-permittee. And then at age 8, if they were at age 8, they could do both. Follow-up question, would a hunter who listed that youngster, 4 years old, as a sub-permittee, would they be losing their opportunity to have, could they still get an alternative sub-permittee, or would they be forfeiting their chance to have a sub-permittee on the hunt with them?
I do believe right now that when you apply for a point, you don't put in a sub-permittee or anything, so that wouldn't affect, they wouldn't have a sub-permittee, so it wouldn't affect anybody else. They would just be applying for a chance, an extra chance.
Representative Harlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just was wondering if the department would give like a 2-minute tutorial on the point system, just so that I'm sure I understand it, please.
Bill Swan, Director of Licensing, Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. So essentially, every year that you apply, you get a bonus point, which is the equivalent of an additional chance in the lottery. The way it's structured right now, for all years 1 through 5, essentially you get 1 point for every year. And then on years 6 through 10, you get 2 points for every year in those years. And then years 11 through 15, you get 3 points for every year. And then after that, if you still haven't gotten a permit, you get 10 points for every year. So what happens over the course of time is, you can get up there to 50 or 60 points, which means you have 50 or 60 times the chance of the first-time applicant of getting a permit.
Thank you.
We had this just a couple of years ago, only it was 10 years old. You could not win a permit unless you were going to be 10.
Do I understand that currently you could be 2 years old and win a permit to hunt a moose?
That's correct,
Okay.
with the law change.
Senator Carpenter.
Bill, why did it change from 10? The legislature made that change?
That's correct.
I've acknowledged before the committee that I'm not 100, but 8 seems young to me to be out there carrying a big enough weapon to take down a moose. I'm sorry. I'm sure there are some that can do it. Roger Reed probably has gargantuan grandchildren that
Bigfoot.
with great eyes and all that. But boy, it seems to me, I've carried a rifle a few times in my life, and it seems to me the 30-06 or something of this, or 30-30 would. Most eight-year-old boys, children that I know of, would have a hard time doing that and doing it.
Representative Stearns.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to respond to that, Senator Carpenter, that was well thought out and fought out, if you will, in the last session, and a lot of data was brought forward from other states that had no limit on hunting, left zero age limit, left it up to the parents, knowing the aptitude and the physical size of the youngster and the hunter, and so that's what led to the unintended consequence, in my opinion, of allowing a 4-month-old to get a moose permit, and to then for that little infant to have to designate a sub-permittee with sign language of some type.
Other questions, Representative Mason?
You know, we've got 8-year-olds out there, and I agree. There are some kids that have been taught hunter, gun, safety since they could walk. But I agree, 8 is a little young for having to carry that large of a weapon to be able to kill a moose. So I suggest 10, but that's just an opinion.
Other comments, opinions, questions? Representative Reed.
I supported that bill for one reason, that I thought that parents ought to be the people who decide when their children should start hunting. Incidentally, my son did not agree with me that I should vote against 10-year-olds. And I know in our own family we would never allow one of our children to put in for a permit under the age of 10 or 12 ourselves. And I think we all assume that, probably wrongly obviously, that people would make good decisions like that, but I agree with you. I have a 11-year-old that shot her first deer with a .308, and I have a 12-year-old boy who shot his first deer with a .308. But they've been very well instructed, and they've good shooters. They also handle the bow really well, so we've never put in for a moose permit for either one of them yet.
Representative Stearns.
I'd just like to weigh in and say that I like that concept of an adult investing in the future of a youngster. To me, it's like buying a lifetime license when you have a little Mainer born, a little future hunter or huntress. I just think it's a good concept, and it keeps folks away from strapping the baby on their back to head off into the timber because because that person's holding the permit. I mean, that's out there. And I think that the 8-year limit I'm fine with it. But
Representative Lightford.
It's to me it would be similar like buying the lifetime license, which I bought my granddaughter. I don't know if she'll ever use it or not, but like Representative Stearns was saying, it's an investment in the youth in hopes that maybe they will, and if they don't, they don't.
Yeah. Okay.
All right,
any other discussion? Representative Harlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would prefer 10, but I will vote for 8.
Any other discussion? I guess we can go to a vote. Oops. Oh, beg your pardon. Representative Alley?
I think I'd like to join them two ladies right down there and 10 years old. I think that's early enough.
Okay, in my experience, this is just about the point where a bill starts to go off the rails. What will come next? Does everyone understand the situation and understand the bill? Will we agree on the right age, 8 or 10 or something else? Will the committee split, sending 2 different versions to the full legislature for a lengthy and confused debate? Stand by. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. On today's show, you're getting an inside earful of how the Maine legislature deals with issues. In this case, who gets to shoot a moose? So far, we've heard 2 bills presented to the committee. We've heard testimony from the public. We've had the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife explain its procedures and moose lottery. This is a work session now. Hearings are for the public to speak. Work sessions are for the committee members to discuss. Right now, there is no age limit on who can win a moose permit in the lottery. And there's no age limit on who can pull the trigger on a moose. The committee has mostly come to consensus that it's okay to get toddlers into the lottery so they can accrue bonus points towards a future lottery. We pretty much agreed that they shouldn't be allowed to actually get a permit until they reach a certain age, and we're trying to figure out what that age is. I'm actually chairing this committee, and I'll send it back to Representative Stephen Wood.
Thank you. Now, I have a niece that can't wait to go turkey hunting. She's 9 this year, and she can't wait to go turkey hunting. And I think she would. I'm going to put her in for a moose permit too. I think she would love it. But I mean, she's a little tomboy, and she came to me the other day. Uncle Steve, we're going turkey hunting this spring. So yeah, I mean, I think 8 is fine. I mean, she is a big girl. She's very mature, and she wants me to take her out shooting my 20 gauge. So,
Representative Stearns and then Otto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, another option for a parent, if that 8-year-old is successful and wins a permit, that doesn't mean the youngster has to carry a firearm. They could be the hero of the day and just be the permittee on the hunt. And if they're, say, a tiny little one that's going to get knocked over by a recoil, and still wean their way into moose hunting that way. So that could be an option.
Representative Neto, I'm going to go to Representative Wood first because his hand went up so fast I think he has a reply.
They have tripods now today that you can strap a gun right into, and you can carry that tripod anywhere, pop it up. The little kid steps up and aims it, squeezes the trigger, and it doesn't knock them on their butt because it holds it in place, makes it very accurate. And
Representative Neto, you now get to ask 2 questions.
So yes, I carry my tripod every place I go, and the reason why is that, but I have a camera on the other end of it. But I think some of us here on the left are a little, and I don't mean there, I'm a little confused to which one we're talking about, because are we talking 8 years old hunting, or are we talking under 8 years old for the accruing of points? Because right now we're talking 2 bills, and I just kind of want clarification from one to the other. So this is why I don't like bunching bills.
Fair enough. We are discussing 2 bills, LD 222 and LD 558. LD means legislative document, by the way. That's just the way they're numbered. We're pretty much ignoring 222 because that just changes the moose hunting age from 0 to 8. LD 558 also sets the age at 8, but allows younger kids a chance to enter the lottery just to accrue bonus points for a future lottery when they are eligible to hunt. At this point, we'll just get rid of the first bill.
Is there a second on odd not to pass on 222? We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of odd not to pass? It is unanimous. Thank you. We have a motion, Representative Wood?
We have a motion and seconded on 558 to make it so that you can accrue points up to age 8. At age, up 7, then 8 and up, you can win a permit and you can hunt a moose. Age 7 and below, you cannot hunt a moose.
And you cannot win a permit.
And you cannot win a permit. You can just accrue points.
We have a motion for ought to pass, and I believe there's an amendment about setting an effective date that is probably pending, but let's go to Representative Harlow first.
I'm still uncomfortable with the age, and I'm kind of set on 10, but that's just where I'm at.
Representative Wood.
Could we take a straw poll here before we do a major vote? I'd like to see how people feel about, I'm hearing a lot of age 10. I'm hearing a lot of age 8. You know, I would like to kind of do a straw poll. Who would pass this bill at, say, age 8? Okay, so who would do it at age 10? You know, I'm willing to change my motion to make it 10 if we can get a unanimous vote. I would do it to 10.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion? It is unanimous.
And there you have it. Years from now, when someone asks, how do we ever let 10-year-old kids hunt moose and 10-month-old infants enter the moose lottery, you'll be able to tell them the legislature just kept working until the I-W committee came up with an age everyone could agree with. That's about it. You might have noticed there were no party politics, just discussion, deliberation, and cooperation. And that's exactly how it usually happens in the legislature. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine returns next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 8. You can also go to the website at 929theticket.com and listen to any old show. They're all archived right there. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, Doors Equipment, and EBS. This is Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket.